Episode 6 of My Adventures with Superman has released, and things are heating up. Clark and Lois' relationship hangs in the balance, Jimmy is held captive by supervillains, and Task Force X is on the hunt for Superman. Let's talk about it. Spoilers ahead. So I gotta talk about the important stuff first. Clark and Lois' relationship. I love. I was upset at the end of the last episode because they kinda broke up, but this episode was mostly about them coming back together, and what really solidified their love to me was when that laser gun appeared and shot at Lois, but then Clark jumped in front of it and took it, even though at that moment he was significantly weaker. Oh, God, let them be together. Also, how could Lois not forgive Clark? Like, when his shirt was shot off and Clark's anime body was revealed? Like, sheesh. I'm surprised Lois wasn't like, hey Clark, you know what? We're all good. All's forgiven. Just let me touch the chest. But it was also good that they actually had a conversation, which is a healthy way to solve problems. And both of their point of views were understandable. Once they had that figured out though, it seemed like they were getting back together. So all of us Clark and Lois fans out there can breathe a sigh of relief, just crisis averted. I also loved how Jimmy already knew that Clark was Superman, but he was just waiting for Clark to be ready to tell him. Like, that's a healthy way to handle a super friend's secret. But now all three of them are on the same page, no one's mad at each other, Team Superman is ready to kick some butt, and I am here for it. Now for the geeky stuff. I love that we got more Superman lore in this episode, like when Clark and Lois enter that red force field and it turns out to be a red sun force field. In case you don't know, Superman is powered by yellow sunlight, but if he gets caught in red sunlight, it weakens him a lot. So if we have that, we might eventually get kryptonite in this show. Probably next season. You also hear the name Task Force X for the first time, and that's another name for the Suicide Squad. And while this Task Force X was just a bunch of robots and soldiers, I think eventually we'll get an official Suicide Squad. And I think this because Dr. Ivo from episode 4 appears at the end of this episode with a collar around his neck, and he's taking orders from the General. So if the General has Ivo, that means he also has the previous episode's villains. Maybe in the season finale we'll get a Superman versus Suicide Squad fight. Like, that would be dope. Also, I should mention the villains of this episode, Monsieur Mallah and the Brain. And these two are very different from what they are in the comics, because in the comics they're very much villains, but in this show they're just trying to be left alone and live a peaceful life. I was honestly okay with this because they were lightweight adorable as good guys, and I liked how much they were taking care of Jimmy. Well, Mallah was taking care of Jimmy. The Brain wanted to kill him. And Mallah and the Brain are in a romantic relationship with each other. And at first I thought it was sweet because, you know, I'm a softie for love, and they were so caring of each other. But then I realized something troubling. I assumed that both the Brain and Mallah were humans when they fell in love, and then they turned into a robot and gorilla respectively. But then I learned that Mallah was always a gorilla, he just turned super smart. So that means when the Brain was a human, he fell in love with a gorilla. Bestiality. I'm gonna ignore that. But this episode was great. Clark and Lois are back together, Jimmy is safe, everyone's happy, and that makes me happy. But what did you think of episode 6? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you missed my previous review on episode 5, click on the box right here. And if you enjoyed this review and you want to see more, do the ménage à trois, and I'll see you in the next episode.